going on?
What's up, Kevin?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Busy?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here. We're in your home.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we're sitting on your couch, and I remember, I think it was earlier this year. Was this where the flood happened?
This is exactly where the flood happened. Oh, you remember, huh?
I remember, because we had a call for Ignite, and you hopped on from a hotel.
No, it was my friend's room right around the corner out there.
Okay. I thought it was a hotel.
So,
but yeah, thank you for sitting and chatting with me, having a legit chat.
no problem.
What we're gonna do today is I'm doing this series called Your Legit Business, and I've seen you grow. I know you're a pharmacist by trade, and then now you're a facilitator for Ignite. And for everybody that doesn't know what Ignite is, basically it's one of Lisa Nichols' programs in motivating the masses. And you're a facilitator, which means Kevin is the one that actually teaches Lisa's techniques, which is amazing. And now you have a coaching business, and you've taken some time back from pharmacy. And so I really want to talk about that journey because we usually don't see behind the scenes. And I know it's a lot of growing pains. I know it is a journey. And then specifically to the point of, there was flood in your home. And so what you do when you're trying to grow a business and life happens, do you put it on pause? Or even if you have like any kind of goal, and you're so head down focused, and then life actually happens and you have to deal with that. What did you like? How was that for you?
It was really cool to create funnels that way, but I was showing up for everybody else, but behind the scenes, if I could just be real, I was depressed. Wow. In fact, I gained weight. I probably gained about 20 pounds because I was very upset with how God allowed this to happen.
Okay, so now let's go backwards.
Okay, let's go with that.
So you're a pharmacist.
Yes.
Did you go to school to be a pharmacist?
I went to school to be a pharmacist.
Is that what you always wanted to do?
No.
Okay.
So parents, please be careful, because sometimes they'll say, oh, you're so smart, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be... And that's okay, because when you're young and you're like 4 years old, 5 years old, if you just want to be honest, your parents are God at that time. So whatever they say, that becomes your reality. And I had all these aunts and uncles that were constantly saying, you're going to be a doctor. So get this, Busy. I'm in high school, about to graduate, got all these different scholarships to go to all these schools. And I said, I don't like blood. How am I going to be a doctor?
Oh my gosh, that's me. I'm like, I'm going to be fired before I get hired in the
right.
facility.
Because what I was really saying in my head is like, I don't want to touch these people. I don't want to do all of that. And so I realized, it's not that it was a bad thing, but it was bad for me. So what happened was, I always say in high school, I woke up in somebody else's nightmare. For them, it was a dream for me, but for me, it was a nightmare. Wow. Because it was not my reality. And yet, everything I had was geared up towards being a doctor.
Right.
So I talked to a guidance counselor and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I want to be a doctor. I'm kind of nervous. I'm afraid. And this is not, I don't even like that stuff. Like, I don't want to touch these people. Because I was always like, no blood. And when I mean touch these people, I meant I didn't want to do blood. I didn't want people to have an accident and I had to show up on the scene.
Right.
Like having their life in my hands, it didn't feel right. And so the teacher said, the guidance counselor, I'll never forget, this is one of those teachable moments that actually changed the trajectory of my life. She says, now, Kevin, we got a pharmacy school like 10 minutes up the street. So why don't you do this? Go to pharmacy school. That way you actually have a real degree. And then as you go to med school, you'll also know all the drugs of what you should be dispensing. Because imagine a doctor that's also a pharmacist. That is such a novelty. Yep. So do that. And that way, if you don't necessarily want to become a doctor by the time you finish pharmacy school, at least you will have a degree that will actually pay you. I said, that's a great idea. So I'll never forget one time, even though I was being told by everybody you're going to be a doctor, I whispered in my mom's ear, I think I want to actually speak. But I was afraid to because I was bullied when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so she was like, at 18 years old, she says, Kevin, you've been whispering in my ear you want to be a speaker for the last few years. It's time to graduate. Are you going to be a speaker or a doctor, pharmacist. Like, what are we going to do? What's the next step? And I did not see anybody speaking at that time. Didn't see anybody, white or black. I didn't saw anybody. So I know we had the Tony Robbins, didn't see him. We got Les Brown, didn't see him. I didn't really know anybody. So I thought, I don't know why I have this in my head, but since I didn't see a model, I chose the safe route and said,
I think that's such a key moment, because it's like, it was not in you knew you wanted to do something. You had a passion for it. People had whispered and like had said little things that made you feel like, wow, this is impactful. This is something I have that inspires and helps others. But because it was not in your worldview,
right,
you did not even look into it.
Didn't even know I could pursue it. It's just that every time I would speak, people would come after and say stuff to me. So I wanted to be a speaker because I was speaking and I would get feedback directly. Seriously, that's the only way I knew I wanted to be a speaker. But then I was like, all I know how to do is be president of the United States or be the leader of a company or a doctor. I didn't know what that would look like.
Yeah. Okay, so at what point did this, because now you're doing the thing, all right? So how many years in pharmacy did you do until you got to a point where I'm going to really take this thing seriously?
Done many years. All right, oh Lord, you put me out there like.
Yes. We want to know. This is legit, okay?
Okay. Can I? Really?
For real, this is legit.
It was probably almost 19 years as a pharmacist.
That's
but
real stuff.
Here's the deal. I knew on year one I had made a mistake. Wow. I didn't know what it would look like, but I'll never forget after my first year, I said, God, this is so not it. Never forget one day, it just kind of came to me after I wrote this letter, suicide letter, which I didn't do because I was too scared to cut myself and sure didn't want to shoot myself. I didn't like the pain, but I was like, just get me out of here. It sounded cool because I thought suicide meant you can just go back to be with Jesus. And I'll never forget, I had this impression and I said, maybe I'm still here because they'll be hurt and they won't know what to do. So I don't know what age that was, but something in me just said, suck it up. One day this will be over.
At what year, okay, did you say enough and it's enough? Because now you started to do commercials, actually speaking for the company you work for. I know you did this thing with Patti LaBelle and some really great, amazing people. So what year was that and how did you begin to, because it was still in healthcare, but then you started speaking in healthcare.
So let me go ahead and quantify. Okay, I graduated in 1995. I didn't start doing commercials till 2018, 2019. Okay. But what happened in between was when I knew I had made a mistake, I still knew I liked speaking. I liked conferences. So I would go to conferences and watch because it gave my my purpose an outlet. That way I can not just be totally in the box, just counting by five and just doing pharmacy alone.
So you did something.
Yeah, and it was a bad thing. It was just not enough. Because a pharmacy box is like this. But I always felt my skill set was like this. So imagine going into a box and having to put everything inside of a box like this. Oof. And rather than really living and being, I was angry, resentful, and regretful. So I lived like this, but it come out sometimes sharp and cutting people. So rather than inspiring people, I was hating and cutting because I was stuck. Well, I made myself stuck. I just didn't know it.
Yeah, you didn't know. You didn't know what you did.
I didn't know what I didn't know.
But I do want to, so two things. One is the fact that you had this big, as you're explaining, that you had this big thing in you, and yet it was confined to a small space. And because of that, you were not being inspiring, nice, kind, because you were frustrated
and angry.
Yeah. Right? And I just want to say that to say the cost, right, of not knowing what you don't know, of not pursuing, what is actually inside of you now is feeding and bleeding on not just you but other
people. Exactly.
But okay, second thing is you did something about it at some point. You started going to conferences. And so what did those conferences do? Like, what seed did they sow? What were the little tiny actions that you made that now started to get you into commercials and speaking for the company?
I tried to bargain with purpose. I said, I'm going to use my gift and promote up in the company. Like, I'll become a vice president. I'll do something and go straight to the top. But I cannot get on the stage because the world doesn't like me. That was my experience.
Right.
Now, you know, Paul says, when I was young, I thought as a child. I acted like a child. And I spoke like one. But when I was older, I put away childish things. That's in the Bible, the New Testament. I didn't recognize I was not putting away childish things. So I decided to bargain with purpose and say, no, we're going to just promote it. And 1 year, you asked me why these commercials came, I got fired from one pharmacy. I decided to bring a friend who was excellent with customer service. We made configuration 1, we made configuration 2. We started making scripts for the drive-through. So when they did the drive-through, they would click the remote control, and we got it from like 15 minutes down to 3 minutes.
Wow.
2 minutes, sometimes 5. And here's a script. This is probably going to take another 10 minutes, so you have a couple of options. You can either sit to the side and we'll beg for you when we're ready, or come inside, sit down, and listen to our soft music. Which do you prefer? I learned, like a speaker, our job is to always leave someone in choice.
Right.
I left all my customers in choice. Sit to the side or come inside. How would you like it? Oh, we'll sit over here and just wave when it's ready. Not a problem. And they loved it. Customers loved it, but above, they were like, violated company policy.
Right.
Gotta go.
Wow. So, what happened next? Was that like a push for you? Not yet.
Okay, so a man is good at providing and protecting. And one of the things, when you took away my ability to provide, and I've got this house note,
income,
I've got this car that's almost equivalent to a house note in the parking lot, and you snatched it away. I can't just go to I just can't go to a convenience store to get a job. I just can't go to a regular store, any kind of place, and get a job, because pharmacy, you have to have a certificate on the wall to do this kind of work, and the pay is like at the top. So almost every job that I would look at, I didn't know how I was going to get it. And so because
you were overqualified.
I was overqualified, and I was definitely going to be underpaid.
Right.
And for all the pharmacies, it's only a small amount of us. So you have a small amount in retail, a small amount in hospital, and every job, because I was applying, they thought maybe I had done something like drug diversion, because pharmacists don't tend to get fired. So everywhere I went, I was so desperate, and they could feel the desperation, and everybody was saying no. No. So much so, I couldn't get out of the bed. I stayed in the bed so long. My mom said, if you don't answer that phone after about a month, I'm coming to Texas, and I don't know what's going on with you. You better answer that phone. And so we talked about it. And I just finally said, okay, I made a mistake. I didn't like that feeling, because every time I would see Kevin terminated, it was like, you ever seen the syntax error and the computer stopped working?
Right.
My mind would stop working. It went blank.
Like that didn't sit right with you. My identity, my dignity. Is that how? Okay.
Imagine this. Sometimes you can hold on to something a little bit longer than you should. And purpose was still saying, I'm over here, you're not doing anything. And I was holding on to these jobs and trying to find my security there. Purpose did that.
I heard something that said, or I saw it somewhere that said, if it's your calling, it's going to keep calling you.
And I was tired of no. Like, I would have knockdown, drag out arguments in my bedroom. I'm not doing this. I'm not speaking. No.
You know, now you're a facilitator for Ignite, which is one of the programs in motivating the masses, which is Lisa's business. And now it ain't about Lisa no more, Kevin. Everybody's just like, I just want to do what Kevin does. And now you're a facilitator. So take us through, how did you get there and how you started your coaching business? I'm asking this specifically because first, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a coaching business. Like, like growing up, I'm like, what the hell is, I don't know that. And then it's a affluent business, actually, right? So yeah, take us through that.
So after going to their first conference, I was so excited about one of the speaking techniques that she did. Back then they called it the dip. So I was dipping everybody. Like, you know, if you're like me and you were afraid, come on over here and come to this conference because she's going to just lead you right. And the more she saw me perfecting that technique in her group, she was like, you want to coach with us? So when they first made these student advocate coaches, I got selected. Didn't know what I was doing, but they saw me working. That's how I got to be a coach with her. And even then, she was doing all the work. We just give a little feedback. But somebody reached out and said, I love her. She's amazing. But can you break it down? Because I'm noticing you can kind of do what she does. Yes. Can you break down so I can get it? And I'm like, break down what? So that's how I got into coaching. Somebody asked me. I didn't go after them. They were like, show me what you do. Wow. So I pharmacist background, step-by-step approach. That's who I am. So I started breaking it down because that was one of the things I knew how to do. And she was like, oh my God. So I showed her how to connect to the audience. I showed her how to do that little dip, baby dip, baby dip. I showed her how to do all these things and own it and make it look like it was embodied, even though I had all these formulas behind the scenes. That's how I got there. But here's the biggest thing about it. I was like, what do I charge her? So I want you, everybody struggles with price. I'm telling you.
Yes.
I was so afraid, but I was like, I can't go too cheap because, you know, working with this lady, this big coach I'm with, she charges all these thousands. So I was like, if I go too cheap, they're going to think I'm not real. So the first time I could ever say 1,000, I was like, no, dollar back right there. 997. You know what she said? Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And then somebody else from St. Louis reached out, and I was like, 997. And I only gave them 4 sessions at the time. So it was $250 a session, basically. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
And that's how your coaching business
that's how I got
birthed.
Because people asked me.
People kept asking you to help them
all over the country.
And that's your time. So you did that. And I know in coaching, you know, you need to have like a program, it be a structure. Did you already have that before you charted? Okay.
I had nothing. Let me say what I did, because I didn't know anything about programs. I just listened to their need, and I was able to hear the missing gap, ask some questions, and then fill in the blank and let them practice. I had nothing. There was no coaching program. This was all individualized. So people loved me because I was cheap, and I was giving them what they needed, how they were missing it. You know what I mean?
I think it's a really good point, because a lot of us get lost in planning. It's like, I don't have it quite ready yet. I don't have the pretty stuff yet. I don't have it all. But really, we figure it out and structure it as we go.
Ignorance on fire.
Right. Especially like per what your client needs.
Right.
Okay. So now you have this coaching business and you have your full-time job as well. What does that balance look like?
Well, now it's interesting because the full-time job is now part-time. And now I make half my money with the coaching and half the money with
wow.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to do that. But I started getting a name. So people started sending my name to different people. I'm hearing, and it's kind of better to go to Kevin. And people were saying
Somebody
that.
said that to me.
See what I mean?
In Sean's group, he was like, you know Kevin Goins? I'm like, yeah. Like, Kevin is the SAC of all SACs. And SAC, for everybody who doesn't know, is basically a speaker advocate coach.
Yeah.
So everybody keeps whispering your name.
And that's kind of what happened. So people would come, but then I had to also learn how to reach out. So they first came to me because I was really into my mastery. So I give anybody who's coaching, make sure you're good at the skill you're going to help somebody with. So I constantly worked on that skill. It didn't come necessarily natural. I had to work at that thing. But then after a while, it started making sense and I could see what was happening. So it was my mastery practicing and then taking notes of what I was doing. I would give them the notes that I took on how I could duplicate what Lisa Nichols was doing.
Yeah, so I'm hearing practice, which is progression.
Yes.
And then also taking notes, because what's not recorded cannot be improved. What's not measured cannot be improved. So that's amazing. So now you're doing your job part-time and you're doing the coaching. I think even that is bold and big in itself, because a lot of people, because coaching is not it's not consistent income.
Mm-hmm.
How did you leap over that block?
Well, we
after doing it for 19 years.
We went through bankruptcy 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as a child. And so I knew entrepreneurship for me was dangerous. And even when my father died, God bless his soul, my mom's car was getting repossessed while he died, and I had to pay for the funeral while I'm at the pharmacy. So 4 bankruptcies, and that I was too afraid of it, but I kept hearing purpose. Remember, I said, God, whatever you want to do. So I kept walking that direction, and I just said, I'm just going to believe and bet on me. So what I started doing, which I didn't tell you, I learned how to sell working with Lisa, and I was selling her programs, and they were really premium programs. So because I could first sell it for another person for a while, then somebody in Atlanta said, hey, you're selling for her. You mind selling my real estate programs too? They're like $8,000 and $10,000. I said, I got you, man. So I started selling for him. He started sending leads to my computer. And I said, well, my God, if I can sell for them and sell for this person, can I sell for me?
Wow.
And that's how I learned how to say those ginormous numbers out loud, because I was first serving on somebody else's campus before I served me.
Oh man, that's so good. So first you were serving the purpose, and then it came back to you. And then I just want to also, it's so good because it wasn't like you hear overnight success.
Oh God, no.
This is definitely like years in the making.
Plus a lot of coaching that continues.
Right. We'll get there. And so for many years, you know what it feels like to go through, bankruptcy. You've been fired. We talked about that. It's just like so many things that had happened. And now you're like, well, what's the word? And then you said, believe and betting on me. Because recently I'm in this space where, I'm understanding that no matter how many books you read, no matter how many content you ingest, if you do not change your belief system, you will still be, maybe you can keep it going for a couple of weeks or months, but you always fall back if you don't change your belief system. So that's really good. So now you're doing this part-time. I'm so excited for you, Kevin. Like, this is amazing. And you're doing it, half and half now. And so what are the growing pains in actually growing a business, a coaching business?
Well, you just said something fundamentally, believe in you. And here's how I learned how to do that. When was the last time you did something that you were so afraid of, you thought you were going to die, and you lived? For me, it was swimming. Oh my God, and I still can't swim, but I remember getting thrown in the water, and I'm like, I'm gonna die, and I lived. It was also riding a bicycle.
That's a scary one, though.
and one time, I never forget, they made me sing a solo, not speak. I had to sing a solo in church. I cried and cried. I thought I was going to die when people saw me because I was bullied, but I lived. So there's a embodied certainty. So because I had to borrow that strength on all those places where I thought I was going to die, but I lived. And now I use that as a walk through entrepreneurship. I'm not running, I'm walking. Walking and listening to purpose, remembering the last time I did something I thought I was going to die, and I lived, and say, if I could do it then, I can use that now. Not hope and pray and wait on something to come. I'm using something from the past that is real for my body.
That's really good. So it's a perpetual. And you spoke about coaching while in this. Like, you are actually going through coaching for yourself
as I coach others.
How does that so 2 questions. How does that translate into your business? And 2, how did your mom as a school teacher how does that translate into what you do now?
Coaching, what the better I get, the better they get. Because think about it. Whatever I invest in, and I'm investing in a premium price for me, they're probably getting it just, you get all of me when I coach. So no matter what I paid, even if yours is small, because it's me, you get it all.
Right.
So because I learn better and know more, they get it. And then I never forget, at 9 years old, I told Mom, Mom, I know you're a school teacher. I'm a teacher too, but I don't think I'm going to be broke like you. I don't like that. And but I said, no, I'm going to be a teacher of humanity. I don't know what that is, but I think I'm going to teach the world. But I don't think I want to do that because I don't see money. But I never knew what that was. So coaching people now reminds me of when she and I had that conversation years ago when I was helping her grade papers of her high schoolers. And I said, I'm watching her, I'm helping her coach her people through. I just said, I'm going to be like you, but different.
Okay. One question. Do you ask for help?
In the beginning, I didn't think I could. So it was always stiff upper lip, didn't ask anybody. But just before this interview, I had a coaching session, and I was just telling them, I'm so grateful for this little community, because I didn't start out asking for help and thought I had to be the strongest. But I'm so glad I've now learned to trust to ask for help, and people are there for me.
And I want to shed light a little bit on, so I hear growth, and I want to shed light on even while, because there's one thing to have a coaching business and have different parts of the coaching business. So a question I have is, what have you started that you let go of, and what have you also started that you just know you have to continue to work it for it, like consistently, to just for you to see those gains?
So a lot of people ask me about speaking. How do I tell my story?
Right.
How do I connect to an audience? I never really let that go. I'm still doing that. What I have done, though, is because I recognized in some of my later group coachings, when people sometimes fly to Texas and work with me, some people, when they come to a group, they already have an idea of personal development. They already kind of know how to speak. And then I got some that are completely brand new. And those that are completely brand new tend to have resistance and visibility issues with the camera, being seen. Oh my God, help me, Lord. So I had to learn what I did was I added that piece for them. And now I give people the option, if you're not quite sure how to show up, you just know you have purpose, but we got to first deal with some things. I'm a transformational coach as well. So we first help them find out where's the visibility, where's the resistance, where's the struggle, and then get them okay to be seen so they can be ready for the actual speaking with me.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of overlaps in order for you to actually be, because, back in, as you were telling your story, you talked about, just speaking, and then people give you ribbons, and it's like, then what?
I know, right?
You want to really be impactful, right, inspiring, and helping others find their way. So there is overlap in transforming yourself into, so that's really good. All right, well, anything else you want to say? This has been great. I think essentially this shows that it's a journey.
It is
a journey, and it's still continual. It's perpetual growth. It's being consistent. It's finding yourself in the right spaces with the right people. And you also didn't, you've been pushed into, getting fired and the flood and everything. However, you also didn't just take a big leap of just quitting your job right away, because that's something, not to knock off, people that did that and it worked for them, but you're making steady strides. And it does seem to be working, because I can see it, behind the scenes, I can see it. So I just want to say thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Pleasure.
It is a journey. It does take time. It does take growth. It does take transformation. So any last words you want to say to the people?
Yes. With humility, which is a lesson I had to learn, how to stay humble and never arrive anywhere. There's one lesson I've learned. In fact, this came from Oprah Winfrey. She interviewed over 35 to 37,000 people over her 25-year career. Wow. And I said, if that woman did that, let me listen to her wisdom, because I need the biggest nugget she got. And I give you this. I learned from her, and it's true. No matter who she interviewed, everybody had the same question. Was that okay? Was that okay? And what she translated it to me was that everybody wanted to know that what they said mattered. Everybody wanted to know that when they were seen, it was important that people are seen. So for me personally, I have now learned, and this is how I coach, make sure you speak and talk to everybody. Every single person matters. And you'll see the people fighting sometimes and have their positions, but even people that are opposed, this person wants to matter and this person wants to matter. We all want to be seen. Mm-hmm. When you learn that right there, and you can truly understand and know, no matter who a person is, what ethnicity, that we all have the fundamental desire and need, we just have to be seen. That's something that's in everybody. That's the common denominator to speaking to the world. and being okay and knowing how to shape your message so that all can fit inside of it.
Yeah.
That's something I learned from Oprah, and I carry that everywhere I go as I coach and
That's
speak.
really good. That's really good. And I also thank you for sharing that. And just to close it out, speaking doesn't have to be like, it can be in your home with your kids, with your spouse, with your family, at your job. So it's just wherever you are bringing something outside of you. So that's good. So now we're at the point where we play a fun little game. Yeah, because all work and no play. So we're playing, don't worry, it's totally, it's fine. So it's just a couple of questions. There's just a random question, a this or that, and a finish the sentence.
Okay.
That's really it. So the random question: what is your most used emoji?
It used to be the little 100 sign, but now that I'm really kind of going more to my heart, it's actually the heart symbol, which kind of shocks me.
Okay. This or that question: hot sauce in the fridge or cabinet?
In the cabinet.
Finish the sentence. Growing up means understanding I can't always have my way and get my expectations. Growing up allows life to happen. And even in the worst case scenarios, rather than being upset or angry or just whatever that emotion is, ask myself the question, what am I to learn from this? Boom. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Kevin, for having this legit chat with us. We will catch you on the next one.
My pleasure. Bye everyone.